Hi, I'm Parag Palian, and on behalf of my co-author, George Alvarez, and myself, I'd like to welcome you to our talk, Neuroaugmentation Reveals Dissociable Neural Substrates Underlying Storage and Manipulation in Visual Working Memory. And visual working memory allows us to store information in the absence of perceptual input, and to also manipulate it to imagine alternate views. Both processes, however, are severely constrained. Delayed identification task, in which participants are shown a number of items that disappear and a color is then tested, reveal a 3 to 4 item upper bound to storage, such that performance accuracy tends to be high for displays containing 3 to 4 items, but beyond that, accuracy decreases as a function of set size. Now, the source of these storage constraints have been investigated extensively, with researchers linking behavior to cognitive and neural architectures supporting storage. With reference to manipulation, however, we've recently identified systematic manipulation costs using what we call the dynamic updating task, in which participants are presented with 2 to 4 items, whose colors subsequently disappear, and pairs of items swap positions 0 to 4 times, requiring participants to update the color location bindings of the moving items. Now, participants are then cued to report the color of a target item. Within this task, manipulation costs are driven by the interaction of two factors. As memory set size increases, the worse performing gets as a function of the number of manipulations performed. Now, where do these manipulation costs come from? That still remains a bit of a mystery. And that's the focus of our talk today, identifying the source of manipulation constraints. And as a starting place, we'll be asking, are manipulation and storage constrained by shared versus separate neural resources? And can these abilities be enhanced? As part of our approach, we'll be using transcranial direct current stimulation, or TDCS for short, to causally modulate neural activity in regions associated with working memory. Now, TDCS involves positioning 2 electrodes on the scalp, an active electrode that's placed over the neural region of interest, and a reference electrode placed on the non-targeted area. A weak current is then administered for a short period of time, typically about 20 minutes. When the current flows from the active electrode to the reference, that's colloquially referred to as anodal stimulation, and that tends to enhance cognitive abilities associated with the region under the active electrode. Such effects are thought to arise from membrane depolarization, which, simply put, just makes it easier for neurons to fire naturally. And today, we'll apply TDCS to 2 regions associated with working memory. First, we'll focus on the right posterior parietal cortex, as TDCS applied to this region has led to previous enhancement of storage abilities, though effects on manipulation have gone unexplored. And then we'll turn our attention to the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which has been associated with storage and non-visual manipulation processes. However, such findings have relied on correlational evidence, and since information must first be stored for it to be manipulated, it remains unclear as to which of these 2 processes DLPFC activity truly reflects. And so for today, we'll first apply TDCS to the right PPC, and given previous work, we expect to find a storage enhancement effect. But will TDCS additionally augment manipulation ability? This would provide evidence of a shared neural substrate. We'll then apply TDCS to the right DLPFC, where augmentation of either storage or manipulation would provide evidence for separate substrates, and augmentation of both would suggest a shared constraining resource. So moving on to experiment 1, will TDCS applied to the right PPC additionally improve manipulation performance? In this experiment, electrodes were first placed on participants using measurements based on the International 1020 system. Namely, the active anode electrode was placed on location P4 to target the right PPC, and the reference electrode was placed on the left cheek. After the electrodes were placed, the simulation phase began, in which participants received 2 milliamps of anodal stimulation for 20 minutes while completing a behavioral updating task, after which they entered a test phase in which they completed a longer version of this behavioral experiment. Now, given that it is unclear whether any changes in behavioral performance across the simulation and test phases reflect a neural enhancement or simply a practice effect, we actually had participants complete the experiment across 2 sessions. Now, both sessions were identical, with the exception that on one session, participants were told that they were going to receive simulation, but they secretly did not. We refer to this as a sham simulation condition. The order of anodal and sham simulation sessions were counterbalanced across participants. By this token, differences in test performance across these sessions reflects the effects of simulation. In this specific dynamic updating task, participants were shown 4 colors which were subsequently occluded by opaque squares. On some trials, the occluders remained stationary, after which participants were cued to report the color of a target item. Performance in this condition reflects storage ability. On the remaining portions of trials, a movement would occur such that 2 occluders swap positions one time. An item that remained stationary could have been cued once more, reflecting storage ability. Or one of the items that had moved positions could have been tested. Performance in this mover case thus reflects manipulation. So once more, we expect for simulation to improve storage performance on these storage conditions, but notably, previous work demonstrates that such effects are demonstrated by individuals who naturally have low memory abilities in the absence of simulation. And for this reason, we made the a priori decision to split participants into natural low or high memory performers based on a median split of performance in the sham no movement storage condition. So consistent with previous work, we'd expect TDCS to enhance storage ability for low memory performers, but not their high memory counterparts. However, if the right PPC also constrains manipulation, we'd expect manipulation performance across our simulation sessions to increase both for our low and high memory groups. Focusing on the data produced by high memory individuals, we can take a look at percent correct for our storage and manipulation conditions across sham and anodal simulation sessions. We find that TDCS did not enhance storage performance for high memory individuals as expected. Interestingly, however, we also failed to find an enhancement effect for our manipulation condition. Turning our attention to our low memory individuals, we do find that TDCS to the right PPC enhanced storage performance in both of our storage conditions. And to give you an idea of the magnitude of this neuroenhancement effect, we can plot the difference between anodal and sham performance for each individual, which shows that storage was enhanced for the vast majority of participants in both conditions, reaching upwards to 24% difference in performance accuracy. And so this all raises the question of will manipulation performance also be enhanced? And the answer is no. We fail to find a significant difference in this last condition. And so to summarize, will anodal TDCS applies to the right PPC enhance both storage and manipulation? The answer is no. It only enhances storage. So it's possible that these abilities may not be constrained by the same neural substrate. And for those of you wondering whether the storage enhancement artificially stemmed from a regression to the mean effect, rest assured, we've conducted follow-up replications that demonstrate that not to be the case. And so now, we'll turn our attention to applying TDCS to the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And both possibilities still remain on the table. If this treatment augments either storage or manipulation, this would provide evidence for separate neural substrates, whereas augmentation of both abilities would point towards a shared substrate. And to delineate between these two possibilities, we use the exact same protocol as that used in experiment 1, testing across 2 sessions using the same behavioral task, but one major exception. Instead of placing the active electrode over the right PPC, we moved it forward to site F4 to target the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And since we had no a priori basis to split participants into low versus high performers, I'm going to show you data for everyone altogether. But rest assured, post hoc analyses suggest that the results are the same if you were to perform such splits of the data. And so once more, we can take a look at accuracy for our storage and manipulation conditions across sham versus anodal stimulation, and interestingly, we fail to find an enhancement effect in either of our storage conditions. But in fact, we do find neuroenhancement of manipulation ability in this last condition. In taking a look at the magnitude of this neuroenhancement on the individual level, we find that the majority of all participants benefit from simulation, with some demonstrating upwards of a 26% improvement in accuracy. And so these results demonstrate that applying TDCS to the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex enhanced only manipulation performance with no effect on storage. So taken together, these experiments reveal that visual working memory storage and manipulation are constrained by separate neural resources, where the right posterior parietal cortex constrains storage ability, while the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex constrains manipulation. And applying 20 minutes of anodal TDCS to these regions can enhance these abilities by up to 24 and 26% respectively. This work may provide insight into the architecture of the visual working memory system. Today's findings of 2 separate substrates may map onto previous work where we've identified an EEG marker for manipulation, the frontal central negativity, which is separate from that for storage, the CDA. These suggest that there might be separate mechanisms for storage versus manipulation. Moreover, in previous work, we've also found that when people make errors in our manipulation task, they tend to misbind or confuse the identity of the target item with the identity of the item that previously occupied that location, suggesting the presence of a lingering initial trace representation. Taken together, this body of work raises the question of whether the fundamental unit of visual working memory is a single representation or two separate representations. When information first enters a system, a representation may be maintained in the parietal cortex, which tracks the original stored state of memoranda. When items are then manipulated, a copy of this information might then be sent to the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, where it can be manipulated as desired. Whether interference between these representations causes failures in manipulation, and how neurostimulation might mitigate these effects, remains an exciting area for further exploration. Lastly, given the central role that working memory plays in cognition and mental health, neuroaugmentation of storage and manipulation may in turn enhance a variety of broader constructs while improving quality of life across a variety of impairments and disorders. If you're interested in learning more about this type of work, look out for our other two posters at VSS, where we use neurostimulation to augment participants' ability to learn statistical irregularities and in turn enhance the encoding of information in working memory, and another poster where we leverage neural networks to explore exactly why these working memory limits even exist in the first place. Thank you for your attention and memory. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at harag.palin@gmail.com or check out my website, www.haragpalin.com. Thank you.